So good morning, my name is Courtney Rhodes and I am presenting my IDT 3600 final portfolio. It is over the ISTE standards for teachers. There are 5 of them. It is facilitate and inspire student learning and creativity, design and develop digital age learning experiences and assessments, model digital age work and learning, promote and model digital citizenship and responsibility, engage in personal and professional growth and leadership. So the first standard is facilitate and inspire student learning and in creativity. There are 4 substandards over this, and I used a piece of our coursework to model 3 of them for each standard. So the first substandard I chose for standard 1 was substandard A, which was promote, support, and model creative and innovative thinking and inventiveness. I thought that the graphic organizer that we use in the coursework so far was the best example I could use for this because it allowed me myself to create a creative project, and it allowed me to show that it was possible to my students. The second substandard I used was substandard B, which is engage students in exploring real world issues and solving authentic problems using digital tools and resources. I chose to use WebQuest for this one because it allowed students to use the online, like use a website to do their assignment instead of having it like normal on a sheet of paper or something. This gave them like, this is what our generation is coming into, so I thought that it was a better way of demonstrating real world. The last substandard I used was substandard C, and it was to promote student reflection using collaborative tools to reveal and clarify students' conceptual understanding and thinking, planning, and creative processes. I used the comic strip for this. It made the most sense because it allowed students to create a way or a project that made sense to them to solve a problem, instead of me just giving them telling them how to do it. This gave them a way so they could visually see and be creative in the way that they could solve the problem. So the second ISTE standard is standard 2, and it is to design and develop digital age learning experiences and assessments. And again, there's 4 substandards for this, but I only went over 3. So the first substandard I did was substandard A, which is design or adapt relevant learning experiences that incorporate digital tools and resources to promote student learning and creativity. So I used the interactive learning activities that we did at the beginning of the semester. It's basically like playing games, but there's like educational learning aspects to it. I thought that this was most relevant to this substandard because it allows them to incorporate their own way of learning and what works for them personally than just giving one assignment out and just hoping that everybody understands it. This allows students to pick games that make sense to them so they can learn the best that they can. The second substandard I used was substandard B, which is to develop technology-enriched learning environments that enable all students to pursue their individual curiosities and become active participants in setting their own educational goals, managing their own learning, and assessing their own progress. I used WebQuest again for this substandard because the WebQuest allowed the students to do the work at their own pace and they could redo assignments if they needed more help, but they did everything on their own and at their own pace, and allowed them to see how far they still needed to go so they could see their progress. And also parents or peers could get on this site as well, because it was just a website, so anybody can get on it and they can see what's going on. The second substandard I used was substandard C, which was to customize and personalize learning activities to address students' diverse learning styles, working strategies, and abilities to use digital tools and resources. I thought that the Web 2.0 tools assignment that we went over earlier in the semester related to this substandard the most, because it allowed students to pick. It's a lot like that interactive activities, because it allowed students to decide what tool would work for them best, and it allowed them to be creative in the way that they asked questions and studied and everything. So I thought that this tool really showed how they could personalize their learning and do it in different ways from other students. So that was actually my third substandard. So now we're going over the ISTE Standard 3 and its substandards. It is to model digital age work and learning, and then it as well has 4 substandards, which I'm going to go over 3. So the first substandard I went over was substandard A, which was to demonstrate fluency in technology systems and the transfer of current knowledge to new technologies and situations. I thought that the second lesson plan that we did just a little over a week ago was the best to reflect on this substandard, because it allowed me to use a certain type of technology, like the website, to do research on. It allowed me to do research and then transfer that research and information that I found and put it into another piece of technology, like a PowerPoint, to show how you can use both types of technologies to show the information that you found. Substandard B was the second substandard I used. It was to collaborate with students, peers, parents, and community members using digital tools and resources to support student success and innovation. I again thought that the WebQuest was the best assignment that related to this substandard, because it allowed anyone to get onto the website and be exposed to the information on the website, and it also allowed people, so if I was on the website as a student and my parents looked at the website, they could see how far I had gotten and where my progress was, and they could help me or show me what I needed to do to get the assignment done, and it just allowed more support in the learning. So the third substandard I used for Standard 3 was Substandard C. It was to communicate relevant information and ideas effectively to students, parents, and peers using a variety of digital age media and formats. I think that the lecture capture was the most relatable to this substandard, because the lecture capture was basically 3 types of ways of communicating through technology. So using Vocaroo as a voice recorder or screencast to show something on your screen to help students, or just a video to help to explain more to the parents or students that need help on something. So I thought that this was the best assignment that related to communicating relevant information and ideas. So the next standard is Standard 4 and its substandards. It says to promote and model digital citizenship and responsibility, and there's 4 standards to that. The first substandard was Substandard A, advocate, model, and teach safe, legal, and ethical use of digital information and technology, including respect for copyright, intellectual property, and the appropriate documentation of resources. I thought that the spreadsheets was the best assignment for this because it allowed us to use information from other companies. So we used McDonald's, Wendy's, Burger King, and Backyard Burger. It allowed us to use their information, but we gave them credit for it being their work done. Substandard B is to address the diverse needs of all learners by using learner-centered strategies, providing equitable access to appropriate digital tools and resources. I, again, use the interactive learning activities assignment because it allows students to decide which games or tools benefited them most in their learning aspect, and allowed them access to multiple different activities that they could choose from. Substandard C is to promote and model digital etiquette and responsible social interactions related to the use of technology and information. I thought that the presentation that we had to create for lecture capture was the best relatable assignment to this because it allowed me to demonstrate a professional presentation that was benefited by the technology that we used, and it modeled the professional aspect of presentations and giving credit to where it's needed. So the final standard is Standard 5. It is to engage in professional growth and leadership. And the first substandard I used was Substandard A, which is to participate in local and global learning communities to explore creative applications of technology to improve student learning. I used the blog because I thought it was a good way to show that you can talk about anything you want, and it allows other people to see it and read it and comment on it. So it allows a community of people coming together and talking about the same thing and trying to improve student learning in the process. The second substandard I used was Substandard C. It was to evaluate and reflect on current research and professional practice on a regular basis to make effective use of existing and emerging digital tools and resources in help of student learning. Again, I used Web 2.0 tools because I thought it did the best reflection on using professional tools and educational tools that better supported the student in its learning and allowed them more options to choose from for it. The last substandard I used was Substandard D, which was to contribute to the effectiveness, vitality, and self-renewal of the teaching profession and their school and community. I think that I chose the lesson plan, again, because I thought that creating a successful lesson plan helps teachers keep the information that they are teaching new and creative and exciting for the students, and all of that put together just makes for a better teaching style, and that the students are actually going to learn from it. Some of the reflection questions was, how did your work in this course prepare you to facilitate and inspire student learning and creativity? I thought that all the work that we did in this course allowed me to actually do the work and allowed me to see what creativity and things that you can actually do yourself, and allowed me to understand what the students can do. Second question is, how did your work in this course prepare you to design and develop digital age learning experiences and assessments? Well, the work that we did actually made me have to do the work and actually made me design assignments through digital technology, and it helped me understand what actually needs to be done. How did your work in this course prepare you to model digital age work and learning? Well, again, I actually had to do some of the work, and we had to do student samples, so you actually saw what the student would have to do, and then you would see how you'd have to grade it and everything after that. So how did your work in this course prepare you to promote and model digital citizenship and responsibility? Well, we had to make sure we gave credit when it was due, and make sure that everything was professionally created. How did your work in this course allow you to engage in professional growth and leadership? Well, it allowed me to grow in myself and understand what my job as a teacher really is and how I really do affect the teachers or the students.